This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning again. Our theme for the week is week 3, student early alert, the responsibility of learning. We're going to transition into our VARC workshop, and the modalities of VARC, well, the acronym VARC stands for visual, oral, read, write, and kinesthetic sensory modalities. So when we commence into the actual VARC assessment, it's going to give you a breakdown of what your preferred learning style is, where you tend to lean. So it's not necessarily just a final descriptor of how you learn, but it's how you're learning right now through the self-assessment that you're going to take. You'll have more of a preferred style, whether it's visual, auditory, read, write, or the kinesthetic, but you'll also have areas that you'll also be included. So you could be a visual as well as a read and write. So you may not be, your preference for read and write may not be as strong as your visual, but once you get your results, it'll give you a breakdown of the mixtures of your multi-modalities. Lisa, is there anything you want to add to that?
Just to break it down, basically it tells you how you learn best. And the reason you want to know that is because every teacher is going to have a different teaching style. And if you know how you learn the best, you can take what you're given and put it into a format that's going to help you learn it the best. And I taught VARC for probably around 10, 12 years or so, at least a decade. And I love it because once you open up what your learning style is and you adjust to that, it can change your world, and it can change, you know, how you interpret information and how you are able to successfully learn, and it just helps you in college as well.
And then I'll just add to that you're going to get, like I said, 4 scores. Your primary score will be that preferred modality, followed by the other 3, which may be a lesser number in terms of the scale when you take the assessment. But when it all comes together, to Lisa's point, it's all about your preferred method of learning. By the time we're finished, you're going to be able to take your preferred style of learning and translate that into your note taking, your test taking, your study habits. So regardless of the professor that you have, you're always going to know what's your best fit and how you can flip whatever they're doing if it's not aligning with your preferred style, and translate it into strategies. And we're going to talk about strategies also for your learning preferences. So without further ado, I'm just going to run through this. It's a really quick PowerPoint. Let me share my screen. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I already told you what VARC is: visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. It's a short questionnaire. Like literally, when I, tell you to click into the link and start the VARC assessment, I believe it's about 30 questions, and it's going to help us determine what your learning preferences are through the 4 learning styles. All right, and so the first one is visual learners, and visual learners, just to give you a breakdown of what that would look like for you. It's the diagrams, charts, any visual cues, highlighting, if you like highlighting when you're reading in your textbooks, all of those would fall under the visual. Auditory, if you're more of a listener, you need to go back and listen to the recorded sessions, or go back if your professors are posting any recorded sessions, or if you're into the podcasts or going on to any websites where you can have your like Khan Academy. Often those are YouTube videos that will assist you in your learning. And also if you're taking the Cengage text to voice, or even in your Microsoft applications, if you have your custom settings to text to voice also, where it's reading back your papers or reading back instructions, all of that is reinforced by the auditory mode. Read and write, if PowerPoints are your thing, list, note taking, reading and writing in the classroom. If your teacher is a hardcore lecturer and that's your style, then you're going to fit right in with a good number of professors. But most professors, I believe, try to mix it up because they recognize that students vary in their learning styles. And so you'll have professors, I believe, who have a little bit more experience in teaching in the classroom, and maybe who's familiar with VARC, you'll find that they will, by just natural nature, have all of the modalities incorporated into their lectures and lesson plans. Last is the kinesthetic learner, and that's really your hands-on learner. You need to get in there, you need to touch it, you need to smell it, practice it, just really be hands-on with it. If you're a science major and or a math, not even necessarily a math major, but you're taking a math class, being able to get in there, work the problems. If there are models in science where you need to get in there and touch the bones or whatever, if you're in A&P, this is where it would fall into kinesthetic. All right, so are there any questions on the 4 modalities of where you can land when you take this assessment? If there are any questions, please type them in the chat.
May I interject?
Yes, you may.
How many of you, and use the chat, how many of you, and you can just say me, how many of you think you know your learning style? Type me in the chat. 1, 2. Okay, so a bunch of you do. What I want you guys to see is after you take the VARC, see if there's any change or if it's exactly what you thought it would be. Because, for example, when I first took this, I am a read-write learner. I always knew that. That's always been me. I take a lot of notes. I retake my notes. I copy them over and over again. That's how I learn. However, I found out I had a lot more visual than I thought I did. And so it was really interesting to see the results. So for those of you who said me, who think you have a pretty good grasp on your learning style, let's just see how they line up in the VARC after you've taken it, okay?
Okay, well, in the chat, I clicked the link. I included the link. I hope you all can still see it. So just click that first link for VARC assessment, and that should take you directly to the questionnaire. And just take a few moments to complete the questionnaire. When you have completed the questionnaire and have received your results, leave your results on your screen, but type in the chat "done." So you can start now. Let's see where you may have to copy and paste the link into your browser. Is everyone able to get in? Okay, Juliana's done. Edward's done. You guys were fast. Christy's done. Oh no, Christy said yes, she could get in. Lisa, are you taking the test again?
No, but I can. It'll take me a minute here, no problem.
And I say that only because your learning preferences do change with your lifestyle, just and when I say lifestyle, I'm talking in terms of stages in your life. Where you may have taken the test or you'll take it today, your learning style is X, but you'll take it 2 years from now and maybe you're not working, but you're a college student. In 2 years, you might be working and going to school and have some additional competing priorities, so your learning preferences may shift. All right, so far we only have 2 people done. Just
Melanie's done.
okay, great.
Brianna.
Awesome.
Oh, even Lisa's done.
Awesome.
Good girl. Jabari.
Okay.
Sarah. Dina.
Okay.
Patricia. Faith.
Okay, let me see. Think everybody's wrapping it up.
Yeah, because Ashley's done. Remind me to show you what I picked early this morning
Oh,
in
from
my
your
garden.
garden? Definitely.
It's huge.
Let me see now. All right, so this gives you the opportunity to actually purchase your results. We are not doing that. We are just interested in your learning preference. And for those of you who are done, and well, let's start first with those who said that they thought they knew their learning styles. Were there any surprises or were you spot on? Did you, hit it? So either type it in the chat or unmute yourself and share. So that would have been Ashley, Kevin, Brianna, Christy, Edward, Sarah, and Nimrose.
Ashley said she was fine. Jabari was the same. Sarah was the same. Faith was the same, as they knew their styles.
All right, can you tell us what you thought your style was? Spot on, spot on. Yep. Okay. What were your styles? Your preferred style?
Can we say it out loud?
Sure.
I got multivodial. Modal.
Yes. Yep. Modal.
Mod-
Modalities. Yep. So that just means, let's see.
but I don't have a designated style. That's
No,
great.
that's because you're I guess in your learning preferences, your preferences fall equally in each of those modalities. So you're multimodal.
And that's not a bad thing to be.
Exactly.
That means you're open to all different kinds of learning styles, which actually makes it easier for you to learn no matter who's teaching you.
Right.
I think
That's
it really
awesome.
depends, because like the questions were very iffy.
True.
Like if it has to do with computer stuff, I need somebody to do it, and I need to see it. If it has to do with like constructing something, I need written information.
Mm-hmm.
If it has to do like like classes, like your Englishes, your histories, or whatever, I like hearing people lecture.
Right, but
So
that's why
That
that
makes
depends on like,
multimodal makes sense, total sense, because you're able to make those shifts more naturally as a multimodal preferred learner, as opposed to when we start looking at some of the strategies when you're like hardcore kinesthetic like Edward, or like that oral visual learner, or a reader and writer. If you're a reader and writer and your professor is showing a bunch of videos, has a lots of charts and or diagrams, you're going to be like, where, why are you writing anything on the board? What's going on? You want to see that reading and writing happen. Go ahead, Lisa.
So it's funny because I had this situation happen with Professor George a couple years ago. She had a student who, no matter how she tried to teach him, he couldn't learn math, because that's when she was teaching math. She doesn't teach it anymore because she doesn't like teaching math, and I don't blame her. Who wants to teach math? Anyway, so she had this one student, and she kept telling me, she goes, I do it in different colors, I do diagrams, I do this, I do that, I show videos, and no matter what I do, he doesn't understand, or he has a hard time retaining what we're teaching him. We sit and we do study sessions together, and I tutor him, and he does fine, but then when he gets to the test, he can't do it. So I said, well, you're hitting all his visual and auditory and kinesthetic needs, but maybe he's a read-write learner. So I actually had the students sit down and take the BARC test. It turns out he's a lot like me, which is strongly read-write. So you can show me videos, you can draw me charts, you can do all that kind of stuff. You can use colors galore. And I have to take extensive notes, because if I don't take those notes, I won't remember anything you just taught me.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is exactly what I'm talking about. For those people who are very strongly in one direction, you need to learn what's going to work, because your teacher, they will try to hit all those various learning styles, but they just can't sometimes with the materials they're teaching. So you have to be able to say, okay, what do I, as this kind of learner, need to do to be able to learn what I'm being taught in the style that I'm being taught? Because you have to take responsibility for that learning. You know, because there's more of you guys as students than there are of the teachers or the professors. So just keep that in mind.
All right, and I'm looking through. Not everybody posted, but I see there's, you know, a couple oral and visual. There's, you know, one that's really more preferred in the visual, and another multimodal, and another kinesthetic. So that's that hands-on learner. So one of the links that I put in the chat was the, let's see if I can get to it, the VARC strategies. And so we're going to take a look, take a few minutes. I'm going to click through the VARC strategies, and I will start with the top one. So that's the visual strategies, if you're a preferred visual learner. And what's nice is exactly what Lisa was just explaining with the student example and Professor George. If you're a visual preference, you prefer to have things drawn. You want to work with those logos or brandings. You want to see the patterns in the content that you're studying. You also are more in tune with the presenter's gestures and maybe even their body language when they're teaching. You like colors and shapes and let's see what else it says here. Just even the page layout, you'd like for it to be a little bit more visually striking. And so sometimes you may zone out if you have a textbook that is just, it has no pictures. You know, some people like to read books with pictures in it, right? And so if you're this visual style, you'll want to see something in the text that is going to give you some guidance around what it's about. You want to see a diagram, you want to see some bullet points, maybe even to give you some indication that that information is important. So what do? So how do you take what you know about how you learn and flip it so that way it is something that you're better able to use? So in your textbooks, for those of you who are visual learners, you can take the information that you're reading in the textbook or the lecture notes, and you can actually use mind mapping tools. There are free tools online, but you can use your highlighters, you can underline in different colors, you can draw your own little your own image or diagram or picture of what you believe that the content is referring to in terms of the main ideas. And down below, and just like I just said, so in education, it's saying convert your notes into something more visual, reconstruct images in a different way to suit your needs. Redraw your pages from your memory and replace some of the keywords with symbols or drawings. And while this sounds like it's more work, what's going to happen is as you're taking notes and the more you practice this, the more just instinctful it will become. It will just be a natural norm for you to take notes in this way, to receive information and then process it and then have it on your paper in a way that when you go back and study your notes, it's all going to make sense. All right. So let's see what we can do in terms of a quick recap. And my visual learners, if you can unmute yourself and just chime in, for those who definitely knew that they were more visual learners, in the classroom, share, you know, what you do when you have a professor or a teacher that's a heavy read-write professor or a heavy video, you know, they want to share video links. How do you manage? What tips would you give other visual learners? My visual learners.
Come on, some of you are visual. Brianna, you're a visual learner.
And Ashley, Jabari, you're visual. So someone be the brave one and unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll go, I guess. But I
Thank you,
kind of just,
Brianna.
I kind of just like, I don't know, like, especially when I was in high school with like anatomy, was something like, of course, a topic I don't like to learn about because I'm not really one with the blood and body. So I kind of just, like, when it came to memorizing and like more like, I don't know, you have to write it down and like remember it, I like try to remember like acronyms or like symbols or like a song that goes with it or like a color that goes with it or something like that. And that kind of helped for me at least. And
Nice.
like I'm also oral too, so like if they like I don't know, say a professor talks about like their own experience, like I usually tend to remember that more because like it's more personal as well. I don't know if that's helpful or anything or what you were looking for, but
No, that was
Absolutely.
That's
spot
good.
on. And those were perfect examples. And for those of you who are visual learners and auditory learners, you should have jotted down a note because Brianna just dropped a whole golden nugget right there in terms of the examples that she gave. And regardless to whether you read the strategies that the VARC is providing, it's really best to hear from your peers what's working for them so that way you can give it a try also. And so the whole notion around being that visual learner and, you know, how she explained being able to create little acronyms or songs or associate it with a color. Is important. And then in the auditory, being able to recall examples that the professor gave or through the personal, you know, stories that a professor may have gave in terms of recalling that information. All right, so we're going to move to another strategy and let's see. Oh, you know what? I'm not sharing my screen. How about if I share my screen and then you can actually see what I see? That would help.
It's always helpful.
Yes. Although everyone has this. So we're going to go to kinesthetic strategies because there are a good number of you who are kinesthetic. And they're saying here's some of the key words or your senses, practical exercises. You want to see examples and case studies. You want to, you know, hands-on. You want to be a little trial and error. You want to just give it a shot. You want to go for it, okay, and see what happens. So kinesthetic preferences prefer, they outline a pretty long list of ways that you prefer or ways that you prefer to receive your information. And you want to know how to apply it before you get the theory. Professors generally teach in the opposite order. They'll teach you the theory and then they'll give you the applications. And so it might be a very good tool for kinesthetic learners, understanding that professors are generally going to go in the opposite order when it comes to theory and application, to read the book ahead of time, right? You can be hands-on with your book. How about that? Pick up the book or go to Cengage and actually pre-read before you go to class or before you go into your course shell, because more than 9 out of 10 times your professor is not going to give you how it's applied first. But certainly that doesn't prevent you from asking, right? So Professor George, I know we're talking about, you know, a decision-making theory, but can you first share how we would use whatever this theory is we're about to talk in real life? Can you give me an example? And that way, that kind of sets your brain and your thinking in the space where, as she's then delivering the theory, now you already know how it's going to be applied, so you can make those natural connections, if that makes sense to you. Let's see what else it has. And so now it's saying to take the information as a kinesthetic, you want to use all of your senses. You want to be fully engaged. You want to definitely be able to look at exhibits or samples and photographs. You want to be hands-on in the lab. You want to be able to use surveys and interviews, anything that you can touch or feel that's going to make a connection to the content that you're learning. So, kinesthetic learners, the first note in education, it says your notes may be poor because the topics weren't concrete or relevant. Okay. So, I mean, that's an interesting point. You know, if you're that kinesthetic learner and you're not making those practical connections to the content that you're receiving, you're like, what the heck? I don't even know what to write down, you know, or you're writing down just every word that the professor is saying, and that's not going to help you when it's time for you to go back and study. My kinesthetic learners, can we have a brave soul to just chat for a minute about how, you know, have you learned anything about how you learn, or if you know that since you know that you're a kinesthetic learner, how do you kind of flip it so that way when you're in the classroom or learning something new, that you can kind of make those connections to strategies that help make it make sense for you?
I still haven't really found a way, but with the whole notes thing, like I can relate to it. Like with me, I write down like every single word that the professor says or the teacher, and then I go back and look into it. Like it's a lot for me, like a lot of writing. But like for example, like if I'm in a math class, yes, the teacher writes down how to do like a question or how it's done. I usually write down every single step and then I ask for an example to be able to actually like see if I learned. Like I have to take another example or another question to know if I did actually learn.
All right, so Dina, you gave a perfect example in that once you write your notes down, you go back and try and find material that you can connect it to, whether it's a graph or a diagram or, you know, an image, something that makes it more concrete for you. So that way you can have something that you can you know, touch or feel, you know, whether it's a mental touch or feel, you know, because a lot of the things that we do now are virtual. So you're not actually touching the bones in the lab or whatever. But if you can, you know, visualize it and kind of get a sense of what that might look like in real life in 3D in front of you, that's something that's going to be helpful. In education here, it says that you should talk about your notes with other kinesthetic learners. So while your notes might not be that great, Kevin's also a kinesthetic learner. And I believe, who else was kinesthetic in here?
Faith is.
Faith kinesthetic. So another good strategy, if you know, you may not know right off the top, but you'll soon start to discover in the classroom who have similar learning styles to you. And you know, those would be people that you could gravitate to in terms of like your groups, study groups, and a kinesthetic learner. Dina, were you full preference kinesthetic, or did you have some other modalities that were kind of secondary
I
or
was
felt better?
mildly kinesthetic.
So, well, if you were mildly kinesthetic, what was your preferred style? It didn't give you.
No.
Let's see. When you looked at your scores, did you have like which one did you have the highest number in? Visual, oral, read, write, kinesthetic?
I had the highest grade in kinesthetic. I had a 10 in kinesthetic. Kinesthetic.
What was your next highest number?
Give me a second. It was the oral. I got a 6.
Okay. All right. And then the third?
Read and write.
Okay.
So, I have another suggestion with that one, Dina, especially. because since auditory, you said auditory is your second highest? No, oral,
Yes.
that is auditory. Okay,
Oral.
so the other thing you can do is not just look for other people who are kinesthetic, because a lot of people, by the way, are not kinesthetic. You're not going to find a whole lot of necessary learners in your classroom who are also kinesthetic. I think it's one of the more rare of all of them. But since you're also auditory, you can have discussions with people, even if they're not kinesthetic learners from your class, and that will help you also to work through, you know, what you've learned and what's going on in class. So that's something else to think of.
And again, these results, just the highest number is your preferred. You should explore all of the modalities, regardless of whether you're multimodal, okay? You can see my scores right here. I'm multimodal because mine are right there, 5s and 6s, between oral, read, and write, and kinesthetic. I was a little surprised that I wasn't more visual. But I think because of my engineering background, I'm procedure driven. And so I like to see procedures. I want to see the instructions, you know, and my kinesthetic is I want to be able to go in and be very hands-on with it. So but I was still surprised because I do like to go and watch a video to reinforce my learning. But the key point here is that regardless of whatever your highest preference is, and all that means is that you just have a more natural tendency to fall into that category or to have those strategies or qualities come out. So you want to be that hands-on person. But in your case, Dina, you also need that auditory component in order to bring everything together for you.
And also keep in mind that just because you're higher in one does not mean you can't learn other ways either. It's not like you're stuck in that. You have all different kinds of ways that you can learn. That's just your natural tendency, as Tiffany keeps saying.
All right. So we just went through 2, but I gave you all the link for the learning strategies. What I would suggest is for you to go in and preview the strategies for your preferred style, your highest score in the scores that you received here. And if I can ask that you email me, each one of you, your scores, okay? Because I'd like to be able to remind you during the semester, you know, when things might go a little crazy and you want to be able to recall your results. I want to have that for you in your file. So please email me at, here, I'll put it into the chat. Email your VARC results to eofp@warren.edu. And then in the subject line, type VARC and then your name and then the student's name. And put your first and last name. I believe I know everybody's name, but I just want to make sure I'm not, you know, getting anybody all mixed up. So either you can just use your snipping tool on your computer and snip it and email it.
Because everybody uses Snip.
I don't know, but I love it. Snipping is like the greatest. If you're not using Snip, you should use Snip. It's the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, I'm going to even email myself my own results. Okay, and then with that, I'm going to transition to Lisa and Rose.
Woohoo!
And I'm going to make you the co-presenter. Who's going to control? Do you have a PowerPoint or anything?
I will take control of everybody's computer, please.
Okay.
Hi, Rose.
You. Yes, good morning, Rose.
Good morning.
Let me go full screen. Uh-oh. All right, Lisa, let me go ahead and make you the co-presenter.
Gracias.
All right, do you have thank you. I see the results coming in. I'm going to mute my mic, Lisa. I'm just going to step away for a moment. I'll be right back in 30 seconds. I need my coffee.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Just get your coffee.
Yes, we're still recording, so I will leave it to you and Rose for just a moment, and I will be right back to help Barbara monitor the chat for you two.
All right, so can everybody see my screen with my baby boy here? My little baby boy. Type no if you can't see the cat on the screen. Because remember what happened last time I was presenting and y'all didn't see it and nobody told me you weren't seeing my PowerPoint? Remember, that was quite embarrassing for me. Well, some of you see it. Some of you are still sleeping. I get it. I get it.
It's my day.
Today I am going to show you guys some things on the library's website and talk a little bit about the databases and things like that, just so you guys are familiar before the fall semester. I know neither stats nor your psychology class really have you doing any research papers or anything like that, but there's a lot of things on the library's website, a lot of different information and tools that might help you. And if you know where they are, then you can always find them. And going into fall, that might help you, especially with the databases and things like that. So I don't have a PowerPoint presentation because I was tired of making PowerPoint presentations for the moment. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you around the library's website. So for those of you who don't know how to get there, there's this little link on the right-hand side that says library from the main page. Ta-da! Oh, be careful with the quick links though, it'll get you every time. See that? Anyway, here's the library link. You click on it and it opens up the library's homepage. Now there's a heck of a lot of tabs up here, and I know that. You're not going to ever look at all of them, but I do want to go through some of them just to show you the information that's there. So as you all know, the library is closed at this time. The physical library is closed. I don't know, and I doubt we're going to be open back up in the fall. But I do everything now virtually for you guys that I can to help you with anything that's going on or your research needs. A couple of you have emailed me over the last week or so. You know, I get back to you really fast, and I try to always maintain that kind of contact. So if you ever need anything, you guys have my email, but you can also email me here through the Ask a Librarian. It all goes to me because I'm the only person in the library. Shut up, everybody. When we're open, though, these are normally kind of our hours. And for those of you who might be looking for an on-campus job, once we are back on campus, we have the work-study program, and I usually hire a bunch of students for the work-study program. So that's something to think about in upcoming semesters. Again, it won't be in the fall for sure, but I don't know what's going to happen after that. Nobody does. So you're always welcome. And this is also my phone number at the college. You can call that number and leave a message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I am checking that remotely. I'm also in the physical library like once a week, so I'm there as well. I'm going to skip the COVID-19 resources, news updates. So library services. So this goes over some of our policies. So like if you're curious, you want to check out books or I don't know what I have on here. Oh, the academic code of conduct, which is kind of something that every student should know. And it essentially lays out the kind of conduct that you are expected to adhere to while you're a student. And if you break any of these rules or you do something that goes against these rules, it tells you right here that you can be filled for a course and or expelled from the college. Just keep in mind that every school you ever go to, even K through 12, will have some kind of academic code of conduct. They don't always share it with you, but it always exists, and it's a legal and binding kind of contract that you agree to without knowing you're agreeing to the minute you sign up for classes somewhere. So I just like students to know that that exists, so that, and this goes to things like especially plagiarism and things like that. And this addresses what you're supposed to do to avoid plagiarism. And that basically is to be honest with where you're getting your resources and to give credit to where you're getting your resources. And if you don't do those things and you get caught plagiarizing, then you can get in trouble for it. I do know teachers who will give you a 0 in class if you're caught plagiarizing, which means that you have a 0.00 GPA for that class, and your best bet is going to be to retake it at some time. Other professors will give you a 0 in assignment, things like that. So I really think it's important that students are aware that this code of conduct exists. And so it's always here on the library's page. We do have interlibrary loan, which is if you are trying to get a hold of a journal article or a book that the library does not have access to, you can email me and give me the information, and I can try to get it for you from another library. Keep in mind, it can take up to 2 weeks for that exchange to happen. And right now, we're not doing books because, again, the library's not open. Hopefully soon, we will offer curbside pickup where you can request a book probably through the same email address, and I will prepare it and check it out to you, and then have it ready for you to pick up at the school, but we don't have that yet. That's in our next phase of reopening. Anything else on here? Blah, 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 blah. So the free Microsoft Office 365 download, I have shared with you guys, but it's here. Put in chat, yes or no, whether you have logged into your student email. And Rose, let me know what you're hearing or seeing, Rose and Barbara.
Oh, sorry.
Caught you sleeping.
Sarah, Tina, and Faith said no.
Okay. So it's really, really important that you guys go ahead and log into your student email at some point, so that you know where you're getting, or you know how to log into that area. And that's also how you can get the Microsoft Office 365. If you don't use that email address, you can't get the free download. And again, that includes Word, PowerPoint, Excel, any kind of Office program you would need to use. And that's available not only for like a PC, but also for a Mac. So just keep that in mind. And all of this is under library services. And we'll go over the email in a minute, just for you, those of you who haven't yet logged in. Library online resources tab are our databases. So if I have time at the end, I'm going to show you how to use the databases, but there is a video here which shows you how to search in the library's databases. It's not that long. It's, you know, me talking, showing you how to log into the databases and how to search the databases. So if I don't get a chance to get to it, this is here for you guys to use for now. And then if necessary, we can go into it again later. But essentially, we have 2 main databases. EBSCO is our biggest database. It covers all these other smaller databases, and it allows you to search just through this one entry point into all these other databases. And in there, you'll find ebooks, peer-reviewed journal articles, newspapers, all that kind of thing. So if you ever have a professor say to you that you need to have a peer-reviewed source or a scholarly source, that's them telling you without telling you that you need to use the databases. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to be using EBSCO because it's our biggest database. And it covers every subject area. So Gale Interactive Human Anatomy is for specifically students who are studying human anatomy. So A&P 1 or 2, pre-nursing, things like human biology, stuff like that. And it gives you the human body, allows you to look at different organs, different parts of the body, and it allows you to kind of like have small lessons on it and learn about it and pull it apart and put it back together because it's a 3D type of thing. So if you're an A&P 1 or 2 and you need some of that kinesthetic action while you're at home, because in the lab you'll have the models that you can use, but at home you might not. So you can use this. It's a great resource that allows you to manipulate the different areas of the body and see how they all fit together. Keep in mind that this database and most of the stuff that we have at WCCC will not work well with Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge. especially Internet Explorer, Microsoft Edge. The reason that our programs and even my Warren is not compatible with Internet Explorer and or Microsoft Edge is because there's a securities issue with those two browsers that do not match up to our programs. So it is recommended that you use Chrome or Firefox. And right here, these are both links if you want to download Chrome or Mozilla Firefox, but you can also just Google them and download them. Even if you're working on a Mac or something that's Mac based, you still want to try to download Chrome or Firefox because Safari, again, has problems with some of our resources. So it's good just to stick to one of these or both if you want, whichever you're comfortable with. So library tutorial videos, again, I have that database video, but I also have a bunch of different videos that I made since we're now online, including a general library presentation, which goes over how to research for your classes and things like that. MLA style formatting, APA style formatting videos, a Comp2 video because you do a specific kind of research. And if you're ever given the Psych journal article assignment, which I don't know if Professor Harrison is going to give that to you this summer or not, but a lot of psych classes and social classes do this journal article assignment. So this is a video just for that. Keep in mind one thing to know is that at WCCC, we mainly use two different styles of citations. We use MLA for all your Englishes, history, philosophy, all your humanities courses. And then we use APA for all of your non-humanities courses, all your science courses, all your what they call soft sciences, which are like psychology, sociology, education, criminal justice, things like that, all use APA. So while you're at WCCC, you're going to end up probably using both. But APA, we are switching to an updated version of APA in the fall. So if you've used APA here before, or you're using it this summer, it is changing in the fall how we're going to use it. And there's going to be more information available. I'm currently working on that even as we're meeting in these meetings. So keep in mind that right now we're using APA 6, but we will be upgrading to APA 7. Library catalog. So if you ever want to search and see what kind of books we have, all you have to do is search this area. So, and it's going to give you results of what we actually have in the library in terms of books or videos. Okay, and you can break it down even further by topics or authors or format. So I know this is really small on here, so you can always do Control+ to make it bigger. So let's say I want to look at just DVDs, you know, I can do that and it'll tell me. Once we enter stage 3 of our reopening plan from COVID, you can start to request books online to be able to pick them up at the library, and there will be instructions on that from the homepage once we get to that point, but we haven't gotten there yet, but we will eventually. So that's how you search the library's catalog. Usernames and passwords. This is what I wanted to show you. So this is the account you use for logging into your student email. Okay, and again, I think I've talked about this before, but the student email or network account is not connected in any way, shape, or form to your My Warren account. So they're actually two completely separate accounts. So I inevitably have people in the middle of the fall semester who will email me saying, I've tried to log into the databases, but I can't log in because, and you know, I'm using my ID number and my Warren password, and then, you know, I have to work with them to explain that that's not how you log in. So this email account is also how you log in, not only to the email, but computers on campus, the library's databases, the Wi-Fi when we're on campus, and the library printers. So that's why I think it's a good idea if you at least log into your email once over the summer so that you know how that account works. And I think we've talked about this. Your username is your first initial last name, all together in all lowercase, like in the example here. And your password is that 2-digit month of birth, 2-digit day of birth, last 4 of your SOCH. Now, I think last time we talked about it, IT hadn't created all of your accounts, but they should have by now. And so if you are still not able to log into your student email, you want to go ahead and email support, all right, at support@warren.edu. All right, email them and say, hi, I'm in the EOF program this summer. I'm not able to log into my student email. You know, I need some help. Give them your name, give them your ID number. Remember our netiquette email rules, and address it that way with, you know, hi, I am blah, 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 and all that information. And hopefully they'll be able to get back to you, usually within 24 to 48 hours. They are working regular Monday through Friday hours over the summer, and they will be in the fall as well. They don't work on the weekends. So if you're not able to log in, try to get to them before Friday, so that you can get help during the week.
Lisa, can I just interject for a second?
Absolutely.
I thought I heard you ask who was unable to get into their student email.
Who had not logged into their student email.
Okay, so I didn't see who had not. I see Christy's comment about being denied. I believe that like Lisa said, email IT.
Yeah,
Christy, and then they can get it resolved for you. But everyone should have had access to their student email as of like last Monday. And so if you haven't logged in, please do. But certainly let me know if, thank you, Rose, for IT email. Let me know, send me an email if you are having difficulties accessing your student email. And also everyone should have been able to get into their Cengage textbook, because Cengage should have been connected to their preferred email. Whew, I felt that one coming. You know how you can feel your spidey senses tingling. I was like, because I just want to make sure everyone's good to go with their Cengage subscription also. No one's on the trial. Everyone should be on the paid subscription and have followed the instructions that Dr. Van Dersen sent. And if not, you need to let me know right away, because Cengage can get that fixed up for you. But more importantly, we want you to be able to access the free Microsoft 365 that we offer through the college with your student email. And
absolutely.
that's not, Lisa, that's not connected to their preferred email. They must use their student email in order to access the free 365, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. It has to be, okay, so one thing to note, student emails, where are we? Oh yeah, we're on the right spot. Student emails, you log in using your first initial last name, but your actual email address is first initial last name at student.warren.edu. So when you're emailing in regard to your Microsoft Office 365 account, you have to be using this email address, because that lets them know that you are a student at Warren County Community College, and therefore you have access to that free download. So that's why it makes a huge difference. If you're not using that and you're using your preferred email, like a Gmail account, it's not going to let you log in or create an account at all. So just keep that in mind. All right, and again, if you're having problems, please make sure you reach out to IT, explain the situation, explain what you're trying to log into. You're trying to log into your email. You're not trying to log into My Warren. You're trying to log into your email. Because if you say you're trying to log into My Warren, they're going to be like, we'll direct you to somebody else, because that's not what they do. They do network and email accounts. All right, so the next tab here is plagiarism. So you've heard us talk about it. I think most of you probably understand the concept of plagiarism, and that is when you don't give credit to where you get information from. And a lot of students will ask me, well, most of this information I got from somewhere, but I put it into my own words. And that's fine, and that's great, but you still have to cite where that came from, because it's not really your own idea or concept. So it's important that you cite things correctly. And as I said, we use two different citation styles. We use APA and MLA. So first, it depends on what your instructor wants. They should tell you when you're going to be writing an assignment, or even in your syllabus, which citation style. So there is a general syllabus, like phrase or paragraph that they put in saying these classes use MLA, these classes use APA. So that should be able to tell you which you're using. And if you're not sure, just ask your professor, just to make sure. So most of the time what we understand is that students at Warren County Community College usually accidentally plagiarize, rather than doing it on purpose. And but what you have to understand is even if you're doing it accidentally, it's still considered plagiarism. So accidental plagiarism includes not knowing when and how to cite. And if you're not sure when and how to cite, that's when you need to be asking questions. Okay, you can ask me when tutors are available. You can go over that with tutors. You can ask your professor, but ask us, do I need to cite this? Do I need to cite that? One thing that is very confusing is this third bullet down here where it says not knowing what common knowledge is. And so a lot of us have interest, right? We have things that we're interested in and we learned about on our own, and things might just be, it makes sense to us and we know it, so is that common knowledge? Well, not if not everybody else knows it. So one of the examples is, one of the old examples, because I don't know if we can even say this is true anymore, was that Christopher Columbus discovered America, which, by the way, we know is not actually true, but that was always, general knowledge, what people said. But if you say, well, Christopher Columbus discovered America in such and such year, then you would need to cite where that came from. So even though you know the information, if it's specific, you need to find a source that backs up what you're saying. Because the whole point of citing is to show that your ideas are supported by other people. So that's why you need to make sure you're citing where you're getting your information from. The other one is not knowing, I'm sorry?
I was just going to say, can I just add, when you're reading, students, when you're reading whatever you're writing, so you're reading it back through to yourself, when your professor reads it, they're asking, how do you know? Who do I see on the screen? Christy. How does Christy know that information is factual? So you put a statement in your paper that seemingly suggests that this is a fact, right? And if you don't have a citation, it could have either have been an oversight, or you're putting in your own perspective. And generally, if you're writing a research paper, your perspective is not appropriate until you get to a certain portion. And I guess it's probably in the conclusion, Lisa,
yeah,
where
usually
your perspective counts. So just know that as you're moving through your research paper and building your outline and so forth, every single topic that you discuss in that paper requires evidence to support the facts, the details that you're putting in each paragraph. And so you should be able to bring it all together. Yep.
Yeah.
And Lisa, so here's another thing. I think we're all probably guilty of either thinking about doing it and or doing it because it's your own work. So tell us the dangers of copying and pasting our own work into a paper, or using a paper that is similar in topic from another class for a new professor.
So that is
work, but that's self-plagiarism, correct?
Yeah. This last bullet, recycling an old paper. So I did that once. This was back when I was a student at WCCC, before I became a librarian and understood this even better. I had Death and Dying, and then I had Death and Dying and another class. I think it was a philosophy class. So I used a paper about the Greek underworld for both classes. So that was me plagiarizing myself, because when you use the exact same words that you've already written and turned in for something else, wait, does that make sense? Yeah, I think you guys know what I'm saying. You are actually plagiarizing yourself. And the consequences of that are the same as if you plagiarized from somebody else. So I've had students ask, well, can I just cite myself? Well, no, because it's not, you didn't have that published. You can't really cite yourself. It's not supposed to happen. So the consequences, though, are the same as if you had plagiarized from somebody else. So even if you're tempted, what you can do, however, though, is use the same resources you used from one paper to another, but you have to write them separately and not copy and paste your own words. So deliberate plagiarism is on the left-hand side. And what I see the most is the copying, pasting from web pages and online sources to create a patchwork writing. So I taught this one class, and it was the paper was like 2 pages long. All right. And the topic was basically describing what you wanted to do when you're done with college, right? Simple. They had one resource. It was a database. I gave it to them. Very easy. They just had to find their future career and write some stuff about it. I can't make that paper any easier than that, right? So this one girl turned in her paper, and she started out in her introduction, normal student writing, not bad, not great. And then all of a sudden her sentences got really, really good and really, really sharp for like 5 sentences in a row. So I'm like, shit. Okay, so I took the first sentence and I copied and pasted it into Google, and she had gotten it. So she wanted to go into marketing and advertising. So she had gotten it from this one page on marketing and advertising, but the second sentence wasn't there. So I copied and pasted her second sentence and found it at another resource where she had just copied and pasted the sentence. So she went to 5 different websites and copied and pasted 5 sentences into her paper. Do you know how much work that is? It would have been easier just to write it herself in her own words. But no, she copied and pasted 5 separate sentences from 5 different web pages. And I think what students a lot of times, not you guys, I'm not saying this about you guys, but a lot of students think that when it comes to doing things on a computer that they're smarter than their teachers. But you don't have to be, it doesn't matter if you're smarter than us on using, websites and things like that or computers, because we still know what your writing feels like. We know what your writing sounds like. A lot of times in the classes that you do have papers in, your professors have seen your writing already. So when you turn in a paper that doesn't sound like you, or there are parts of the paper that doesn't sound like you, we're going to question that, and we're going to try to figure it out if it's yours or not. And the only reason is because plagiarism is very serious. I don't know about y'all, but I hate it when people steal from me. It's a big thing. And my kids steal from me all the time. And you might be saying, it's not really stealing, it's your kids. Okay, well, if they take my shit and take it somewhere else, that's stealing without asking, right? All they need to do is ask, and I have no problem. But no, they take it. And then when I want it, I can't find it. Is it stealing food, though, if they're taking it out of the refrigerator and I just wanted to eat it for lunch? I don't know about that. But maybe.
I would say no. They got first dibs.
My son, if I make something and it has meat in it, he'll eat all the meat out but leave it in the refrigerator. And so I think it's sitting there and I'm going to have it for lunch or dinner, and I go to get it and there's no meat left. Does that to me all the time. Oh my goodness. Anyway.
Wait, let me just interject. Cengage. So within Cengage, do students have access to a plagiarism tool like Turnitin or anything like that?
So to get access to Turnitin, the only classes that have that are the English classes right now. And they're trying to get that campus-wide so that all the classes have access to that software. But right now it is not. It's only for classes who have, who are, I think, just Comp 1 and Comp 2, where you as a student have access to Turnitin, where you can turn in your paper and it will go through it and analyze which stuff has come from other resources. And it's a global database where students all over the world and writers all over the world submit their stuff, so they can figure out if it's come from another paper or if it's come from a web source or a book or if it's ever been used before. That doesn't mean that you've plagiarized. It just means you have to make sure that anything it catches you've cited correctly, because it will show you even stuff that you've cited or quoted. But as long as you cited it correctly, then you're fine. But if it shows you something that you haven't cited or quoted, and it's saying, no, this comes from this place, then you want to get that citation on there. So it's really nice, but it's not campus-wide yet. So the other thing I've seen on occasion is buying, downloading, or borrowing a paper. So it's really easy to buy a paper online. I think you all know that. So we had one paper come in. It was for an English class, and the professor brought it to me, and he's like, I know this is not this student's writing, but I can't figure out where it came from. I can't find it on the internet. I can't find any of these quotes, all that stuff. So I started looking at it, and it was a beautiful paper. It was probably the most beautiful paper I've ever seen in my life. But it used like some funny words. So like words that we don't use in our vocabulary anymore, but they did maybe 50 or 60 years ago. So as a librarian, I'm like, let's see the resources. I go and look at the resource page. I think it was MLA, so it would have been the works cited page. And number one, it was all book resources. Now, I don't think anybody uses all book resources at all in college. It's very unlikely. Secondly, all the books were published in the 50s and 60s. Okay, nothing wrong with that. They have a library, they have access to a library. But then I started looking up the books to see if I could find them near us. And most of the books were printed in Australia and were not available in the United States, certainly not in Warren County or anywhere near Warren County, New Jersey. So that's how we were able to show that the paper was not the student's original work, was because of the resources that were on that paper are simply not available to that student. So I'm just letting you know that as your professors, you know, we've seen a lot of different kinds of plagiarism. We've seen a lot of different kinds of writing. And it's not that we want to call you out on it, it's that we have to call you out on it because we have a responsibility to make sure that you learn how not to plagiarize. So this page is available that will help you a little bit if you're not sure and you want some extra help. The two citation styles that we mainly use, MLA, here's a whole tab on MLA, why we use MLA, what MLA is, how to format an MLA, how to do your in-text citation, your works cited page, how to do direct quotes to paraphrase and summarize, and that's where we see a lot of problems. So it's always a good idea to take a look at this page. It's not very long, but it tells you the difference between quoting, summarizing, and paraphrasing, and how you would cite each one. Okay, so I know I've seen a lot of students need help with that, so that's there. But this page right here will change in the fall. It's going to, hopefully by the fall, I'm still working on the APA page, but it's going to take a different style and it's going to be a lot easier to use. There's also the MLA citation format guide, and this is a PDF guide that shows you how to do just about every kind of citation in MLA 8 that we would ever ask you to do. Now, it's fine if you use things like CiteMe, EasyBib, things like that. It's fine if you use citation generators. I don't have a problem with that. But as the student, you are responsible for making sure in the end that that citation is correct. So you can't, you know, look at your paper after it's been graded and see that you got points off for your citation, which does happen, and then go to the professor and say, well, this is what EasyBib told me to do. That's not acceptable. So anytime you use EasyBib or any of those other citation generators, you need to double check that citation with what is expected of you in this format guide. And in the future, you're going to have tabs where it's going to say, like, show you the format right on the web page, but I'm still working on that. It's a lot of work. So just keep that in mind. I'm sorry?
Can I comment on something?
Yeah.
Some professors I know, especially English, they'll give you, instead of having making you go directly to the website, they'll give you examples of how to cite different things.
Absolutely.
I kept the document from my English course. Yeah.
But like this, yeah, it tells you even how to cite your citation books in here, and gives you the example. So it tells you what the works cited entry would look like, and then gives you an example of what that looks like too. So this is similar to that. It's just probably longer than what you got in English class. But you know, take advantage of whatever resources are around you. But in the end, as a student, you are responsible for your own learning. You are responsible for getting your citations correct. And so you are always welcome to ask me to help you with citations. I don't have a problem with that. Send me, you know, you could be looking at a web page, send me the web page link and say, hey, Lisa, how do I cite this in MLA? And I'll show you how to do it. That's not a problem, but the problem is don't try to do it on your own if you're not sure, because not using the correct citation style is actually also considered plagiarism, even though we don't address it that way at the college. Excuse me, you can get points off papers, you can get zeros on papers if you're not using the right kind of citations. So just keep that in mind. There's also one for APA. It's set up the exact same way. But again, this web page will be changing in the fall, and it's going to be a lot easier and more helpful to use. But keep in mind that it's also here, again, with the citation guide. And there's even a sample APA 6 paper, sample APA 6 PowerPoint. Because when you do PowerPoints, most professors are going to want you to cite on your PowerPoints as well. So just keep that in mind. one class might ask you to do Chicago style, and that is art history with Tracy DeTola. So this is her example of how to do a Chicago style paper. So if you're ever asked by Tracy to do a Chicago style paper, just follow the example here. I discourage it because Chicago style isn't really used until you get to graduate school, but that's what she wanted to use, so it's there for when she asks you if you take art history. Information literacy modules goes through, you might be asked.
Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if I could just circle back to the plagiarism issue. I also just wanted to make you guys aware, certainly the tutoring center and the tutors there are certainly available to assist you with helping you work on citations and edit papers and whatnot. But they also recognize when things are patched, worked together. Just last or 2 semesters ago, we had a student who clearly they brought in a paper that clearly was not their voice. And, you know, as the tutor was working with them, you know, there was even a question like, well, all right, you use this word, what does it mean? And the student couldn't answer that. It was totally patchworked. We're certainly there to help you. That's why our department exists, but you can't expect the tutors to edit somebody else's work. It has to be your own. So that's also a level of kind of a checks and balance in that way as well. So, you know, and the tutor just basically said, you know, this isn't your work. And, you know, we literally looked, like Lisa said, everything was copied and pasted. The one thing that they changed, there was a sentence that said, such and such is bad. And instead of the word bad, they put not good. That was the only edit that they did to that material. So, you know, I get it's a big temptation, but there are significant consequences that go along with that. So just be mindful of, you know, we're here to help, yes, but you gotta do your part.
Yes, yes. You got to take responsibility for your learning. And that means for everything you turn in. That is your responsibility. When you write a paper, you are turning in an assignment. You are responsible for what you turn in. So the only person you have to blame is yourself if you're not seeking help when you need it. You might be asked at some point from one of your classes to do the information literacy modules that are on the library's website. And that's here under information literacy. What is it? Just information literacy. So essentially there are these modules that you go through where I give you information and video, and you just go from module to module. And it basically describes the entire process of getting an assignment to working on your research and getting to the point where you have your research and you need to cite it. And it just goes through a lot of stuff. Again, you know, you might be asked to do this for class. You never know. I hope you do, but that's just me. And we talk about everything that we're talking about now, citations, plagiarizing. And then at the very end, there is a brief survey of 10 questions that we ask you to take. And that is turned into your professor when they ask you to take the information literacy modules. So those are there as well if you ever want to walk yourself through them. I know that's asking a lot because, you know, some of you don't do your homework until the last minute. So I know that's asking a lot from you, but it's only there to help you and to help get you ready for the fall. There's a fake news tab, which goes over how to discern if something is fake news or not. And these are all excellent suggestions, but my favorite one is this one, judge hard, or what I like to say is trust your gut. If it doesn't look like it's real and it doesn't look like it's right, if there's a lot of clickbaity ads on it and there's a lot of flashing things happening on that website, chances are that's not the kind of website you want to use for academic research. And that's one thing to understand. You know, when you're doing research for class, it's very different from the research that you would do at home. So, you know, I know lots of people who believe whatever they read or hear on the internet, they believe it, or they you know, hear something on the news and they believe it. And so it's really important that when you're doing academic research, you're presenting verifiable and reliable research in your papers. So this just helps you go through, you know, different steps to make sure that what you're looking at is reliable, is credible, especially, you know, if it gives you sources, check the sources, check credentials, look for bias, that kind of thing. These are important steps because they're going to help you to know whether or not you should use it. And again, if it doesn't feel right, don't use it. And if you're not sure, you can send me the link and say, hey, Lisa, can I use this website in my research? And I'll take a look at it with you, and we can discover whether or not it's something you should or shouldn't use. 9 times out of 10, it's fine. But every now and again, I'll get some good ones, excuse me, that, you know, are just totally inappropriate for research. So we also have this subject guides area. And I don't really use this much, but if you go into any of these different disciplines, so let's say you are, right now you're in psychology, some of you, those of you who are not in stats, if you click on psychology, this gives you a bunch of resources that you can use for your psychology classes and things like that, that have been vetted. So that means that I've gone through each and every one of them and made sure that they are reliable information that you can use for your research. So, you know, this is a great place to go when you're like, I don't know what to use and I'm not finding it in the databases. So you can go here and search through these different websites. So I do normally do PowerPoint presentations for classes, and these are those presentations if you ever want to see one. I'm sure you don't, and that's okay. And I talked briefly that some psych classes and some social classes require the journal article assignment. So this is information on how to do that assignment and what you're looking for. Again, I don't know if Professor Harrison is doing it. And if she's not, but you take other psych classes, I'm sure you will be doing it. So there's all kinds of information here for how to do that assignment. And generally, if you're doing that assignment, I'll probably talk to your class about it at some point, either through GoToMeetings or in the classroom, depending on where we are and what class it is. These are just, again, very specific to these classes, resources. So like if you're in speech class, this gives you information on the kind of stuff you should be working on with speech in terms of your resources and what you should be looking for. Each one of these is put together with the help of the professors who are teaching these classes. So and you can tell I like this video a lot, and I would play it if videos worked because it's one of my favorites. But just a lot of information to help you specifically in those classes. So we also have a World War II Holocaust Research Center in the library, so there's a tab for that. We do hold events. We try to hold like one event each semester, but that's been curtailed. And that's basically all the information about the library, but we do also have some tabs in general here, like some career help tabs, which go through things like how to write resumes and sample resumes, how to write a cover letter, interviews, how to dress, you know, what employers are looking for. So that information is always here to help you, and Tiffany can actually speak more about that than I can because she also has the Focus 2 assessment that you can do. Cengage help, so if you're working in Cengage and you need some help, these are just some online resources. I'm not sure what this is. Free or low assistive technology for everyone. So if you're have problems reading from your text or reading from the computer, these are different resources that can help you, I think, turn text into audible or audio and things like that. That's put together by the Office for Accessibility with Rebecca Mellinger. Contact us. Hey, there's our information. And then there's a library FAQ about, you know, different things. Students always ask, are in the middle, does the library have a color printer copier? No. What if I don't remember any of my passwords or usernames? There's a page. You can email. How much does it cost to print? You guys have free unlimited printing when you're in the library, so it's really, really awesome. Cengage help. I haven't gotten anything else there yet because that's all I've come up with so far. I started that this summer. But anyway, there's just a lot of information on here that if you're familiar with it and you kind of are looking for something specific, hopefully somewhere on here you'll get some help. So for those of you who have taken classes here before, how many of you guys have used the database? Say yes, no in the chat. Oh, Brianna, I knew that. Madison, not surprising. Are you two the only ones who have taken classes here before?
Tiffany doesn't count.
Tiffany.
Doesn't count.
For those of you who
Edward
have
has.
not, yeah, for those of you who have not used the databases at WCCC, I'm just going to walk through it really quickly. I'm not going to give you a full-blown tutorial, but just so you can get an idea, because a lot of your classes will ask you to use the databases, and it's the preferred resource to use before you use online resources, just because the resources in the databases are reliable, trustworthy, and you have the option of picking peer-reviewed. Again, if your professor ever says peer-reviewed or academic or scholarly journal articles, they're telling you that they want you to use the databases, because that is the only place you can get and you can sort your resources by scholarly or peer-reviewed resources. Some of you might think, well, but there's Google Scholar, and Google Scholar is great. However, 9 times out of 10, you do not have access to the full article of what you're looking at in Google Scholar, and that's a problem, because what you really need is a database to help you find those articles, and that's all paid subscription services. So at WCCC, we have, remember, it's on library online resources. We pay every year to get these databases and to subscribe to them so that you guys have access to them. So I'm going to show you EBSCO Discovery Service, because again, that's the one you're going to use most. That's the one you should use most. So you just click right here. This is a clickable link. So you click on the title, you put in your username. So again, your username is the same as your email or your network account. It's first initial, last name, and then whatever password you have set up. And you do have options of changing this password if you want to. You don't have to. That's completely up to you. And you log in, and it's going to give you a search box. Okay, so just like in Google, you have this search box. Whatever you put in here, it's going to search for. But you have 3 different kinds of searches. You have a keyword search, and this is a drop down here. You also have a title search. So if you knew exactly what you were looking for, like the title of an article, you could put in the title here, or the title of a book, and I'll explain that in a minute. And you also have author search. Now, this is not searching for information about authors. This means the author of the article or the book or whatever it is you're looking at. So I have a lot of people who are in Comp 2 who see author, and will put Edgar Allan Poe here, because they're looking for information about the author, Edgar Allan Poe. But that's not how it works. This is for the people who have written the articles. And actually, he did write some reviews, so it's not completely, doesn't completely not work, or what? You know what I mean. So it can, on occasion, by fluke, work, but generally, it's not going to work if you don't know the name of the author of the person writing an article. So what I generally tell students to do is to start with a keyword search. So you want to keep your keyword search kind of basic. You don't want to be too specific, because the more specific you are, the fewer results you're going to get. And if you are looking for something too specific and you don't get any results, that's when you're going to come to me and say, Lisa, there's nothing in the databases. And then we'll sit down together and we'll find stuff, and you'll be like, oh, but I did that, and so on and so forth. The other thing you can't do here is you can't ask it a question. So I do that all the time on Google. When I want to know something, I'll write a question in Google and usually find what I'm looking for. The databases don't work like that, unfortunately. You have to use connectors for your phrases and words. So what you do is you pick out the keywords. So one that I like to search for is, I want to know about what popular culture thinks about the zombie apocalypse. That's my topic. So 3 of the important words there. So what does pop culture think of the zombie apocalypse? Who can tell me what my keywords may be, or just one of them? Put it in the chat. I'm researching pop culture, how pop culture feels about the zombie apocalypse. What do you think my keyword? Give me one keyword in the chat. Somebody, please. Ah, Dina, you saved my life. Oh, Brianna, you did a nice connection there. Pop culture and zombie. Feels. Now, see, Christy, that might be misleading. But if I put feels in the database as a keyword, oh, this is going to be scary. I get 2,619,797 results, and some of them is not even correct. Fees. Ooh. Now, Brianna, that was a great one, but I'm going to go with Dina and my zombies. So if I just put in zombies, you can tell I've been there before. All right, zombies as a keyword. It's general. It has to do with what I'm looking for, and it's not too specific, right? So if I do that, I have almost 60,000 results. Now, I get a lot of different kinds of results. Ebooks are included in this, periodicals. We have a lot of ebooks on zombies. Academic journals. Now, academic journals is really what you want to pay attention to. Academic journal articles tend to be the ones that have been peer reviewed. So let's say I'm doing this for a sociology class, all right? It has to be peer reviewed. That's what I'm told by my professor. It needs to be peer reviewed. So what I'm gonna do is on the left-hand side of the search or of this page, it says limit to. So I'm gonna limit my results to peer reviewed. And now you're gonna see almost all of my results are gonna say academic journal. All right, the type of result is an academic journal. The other thing I want to do for any kind of sociology, psychology, any kind of science or medical class is I only want to look for resources from the past 5 years. So the reason we do that is because when you're looking at those classes, especially those classes that require APA citation styles, psychology, sociology, any science, education, you only want to look for the most recent research, okay? Because these fields change all the time. So if it's 2020 now and I only want to go back 5 years, I would put in 2015 here and hit enter. So that updates now. All my results are peer reviewed, and you can see in this current search box right here, it tells me what I'm limiting or what I'm doing with my search. So it includes the word zombies. It's all full text. It applies equivalent subjects, which is like a thesaurus type thing that it does. That's fine to leave in there. I'm limiting it to peer reviewed. They're available to me in the library collection, and the publication date is in the last 5 years. So under limit to, available in the library collection should always be checked. Okay, you'd never want that to be unchecked, because if that is unchecked, it might give you results that you don't actually have access to. So you want to make sure that's checked. The other thing you want to do is under source type, I want to do only academic journals, because reviews aren't really going to help me. Books are not necessarily peer-reviewed resources. Dissertations and theses, nobody wants to read those because they're forever long. Reports, again, reports aren't necessarily peer-reviewed. So I want to limit it to just academic journals. So I went from what, 60,000 to just about 2,000 results. So that's why I mentioned you should start out with something general in the keyword search, because once you get into the search, you can limit your results just by clicking a few boxes. So the other thing I can do is under subject area, right here, I go to show more, I can break down this search even further. So what I said I was searching for was what pop culture feels about the zombie apocalypse, right? So I could say perception, but look, here's pop culture. So if I click pop culture, that's one of the words I'm looking for. Is there an apocalypse here? I can also do this, no apocalypse, but it does have pop culture. So I'm gonna go ahead and add pop culture to my search after I had clicked it. And now I have even fewer results. So let's say I really like this first one, asking zombies about zombies. I mean, that's pretty cool, right? So let's look at this. Let's just say this is an article I want to look at. I can click right on the title of the article, and it's going to bring me to this page that's called the detailed record page. So this page gives me all the bibliographic information about this particular article. So I have the title up here, obviously. It tells me the source, meaning where it was published, when it was published, the volume and issue number of that publication, and the page numbers. Now, why is this stuff important? Anybody? Anybody? Citation, exactly, Dina. This is the information you would use for a citation, right? It gives you all that information right here on this detailed record page, which is really nice. The other thing it gives you is sometimes it'll give you an abstract or summary of the article. And that might tell you, okay, you know what? This is an article I want to use. I really like it. I'm going to go with it. And then on the left-hand side under detailed record, it will give you a couple different options. So sometimes it might say PDF full text. It might say HTML full text. It might say click here to access full text. Any of those options are fine. If it says click here to access full text, just follow that link. Go ahead and click on it and follow the link. I recommend that you always look at the PDF full text. And again, this is about your citation. The PDF full text will include numbers. All right, so let me see. You can see that it has a page number on here. Again, that's something you need when you're making an in-text citation for MLA or APA. You're going to need a page number anytime you use a direct quote. Okay, so that's important to have. So the PDF always gives you that, whereas the HTML might not. All right, so once I have this, I have a couple of different options. What I recommend you do is use this article somehow. Okay, save this article, because I have students who will go through, do all their research, find all these articles, and then won't be able to go back and get the article. And then they need the article because they didn't do their citation and they're like freaking out, and I'm trying to help them find the article, and they can't remember what it was called, but they'd gotten information from the article, but they didn't write down the article. You know, I mean, it's just a vicious circle. I have that happen frequently with students. So you have a couple of different options. First option is, wait, hold on, let me see here. All right. When you're looking at the PDF, there's this drop-down menu here. Sometimes it's not always there, and you just have to click in this area over here, and it'll come down. But you can go ahead and save the article. All right, and almost all of them will save as content server. So you can title it whatever you want, but you can save it to a flash drive or a thumb drive or to your hard drive or whatever you want, but you can save it. And that way you have the article saved, and you can always go back and reference it. Even if you don't have the citation, at least you have the article. And I'll explain why that's important in a minute. The other thing you can do is on the right-hand side of the screen here are some different tools. And so this tool, this triangle, allows you to save it to your Google Drive account. So you can log in as yourself. You allow EBSCO to have access, and it will save the PDF to your Google Drive account so that you always have it there. If you're a Google person, it's great. All right, so you do it once, and you go back and you click it again. Now that you've authenticated it, it should allow you to do it. It hates me. It's all good. Do I have my pop-up blockers at my phone? It works. I promise it works. Okay, see, so first I had to log in. I had to click on it to authenticate my account and to link my account. And then I had to go out of that and click it again, and now it's saved to my Google Drive. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to say, it's going to be saved as content server. So make sure you go through maybe and rename that when you have a chance. The other option you have over here, so if you want to print the article, you want to use this print function on the drop-down menu and not this one. There's a folder. Don't use that. It does not work. This is for people who have individual accounts to EBSCO. We do not, because we have an institutional account. So don't use that. And then the little gold piece of paper here is your citation feature. So if you click on that, it has all these different citation styles. They're alphabetical by style. So for example, I'm doing a SOCH paper. So here's my APA citation. The only thing is that this citation might not be completely correct because it's a computer creating a citation based on information inputted by a human. And I'll tell you, they're not always correct. So you need to double check that against the citation guide for APA that we have here at the college. So for example, this doesn't give me an author, but if I go back to that detailed record page, there's definitely an author. Oh, not on there, but on the PDF, I'm sorry. I'm trying to hurry through this so you can go to lunch. on the PDF, there's definitely an author. So even though the citation didn't give you an author, you know that there's definitely an author. So you need to include that on your citation, because again, saying this is the reason you got the citation wrong is not going to work. And there's also down here MLA, so you can copy and paste those. Just double check everything against what is in the APA and MLA citation manuals. The other thing that's here is a permalink. You can use that for MLA citations. They might ask for it. However, what I used to do when I research stuff is I used to email myself links for all my resources, and that way I could go back and see them. You cannot do that with the databases. You cannot email yourself or just write down the link for something, because if I try to use this link somewhere else and I'm not currently logged in, or I'm doing it from one computer to another, or you get logged out somehow, you're not going to be able to find this. It's not going to work to find that article again. However, there is one thing you can do. So asking zombies about zombies, let's go back to our very, very first page. And I want to re-find that article. If I know the title of the article, I can go to title and I can put in asking zombies about zombies. And look, there's that article. So if the only thing you do is at least write down the title of the article when you want to go back and see something, that is good. But you really should download it somewhere or print it out or something like that so that you have access to it again. Because going back to find it to get your citation can be a pain in the butt. All right, so I rushed through that last part, but do you guys have any questions? Anyone?
No one's going to have any questions because everyone wants to go to lunch.
I'm pretty hungry myself, so I get that.
But Lisa, can you rejoin us after lunch? So
Absolutely.
before we go into our afternoon presentation, if some questions surface during lunch, that way they can ask at the top of that session. And also, I don't know if you got a chance to speak to just citation format when you're writing, in that, just a few rules and tips in terms of, in-text citation, do's and don'ts, so to speak.
I think we're going to be doing that coming up soon. Let me just double check here on my schedule. Because I know I do have one for APA citations, but I was planning on going over all that in that, as well as MLA and APA. But
if we have it upcoming in another session, I'll, kind of wait so that way it's all comes together.
So next Monday is when I'm going to I'll go over all citation styles and the differences between in-text citations and quotes and paraphrasing and how you cite those, and the references and works cited citations next Monday.
Awesome. All right, so before we break for lunch, I have actually emailed all of you a link to a go-to webinar. And because this afternoon session, I have 2 videos that I want to show. I cannot show video through the GoToMeeting platform. So you should have all received an invitation to a GoToWebinar, and it requires that you register. So when you click in the link, you need to register for the GoToWebinar. And I think I have it set up for only 1 meeting because I'm not sure if this is going to work. But I worked on trying to upload all of the videos, and I should be able to share my screen and do the presentation. So if you check your email, can you type in the chat yes if you received my GoToWebinar email? Jabari, are you a no that you did not receive it, or was that a no from a previous question from Lisa's session? No. Okay.
Wait, I'm sorry. What is this for?
It should be a GoToWebinar invite.
This afternoon?
Yes. So I just
is it different from this go-to invite?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't get that.
Can you reiterate what this is for again? Like we're just gonna go individually to this meeting thing?
No, you're going to go to the link. Okay, here, I'll put the link in the chat. How about that?
I have the link on my email, but I'm confused as to what it's for. Like, what is the
It's for
purpose of this?
our afternoon session. Instead of logging into the GoToMeeting, you were going to use GoToWebinar.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so that way we can actually, here, I'm going to paste it in. So that is the actual link that you should have received in an email. I sent it, it looks like it went out at 11:10 this morning to everyone.
And Tiffany, that starts at noon? I mean, I'm sorry, at 1?
Right after lunch, 1 o'clock. So I guess I need to register too. I don't know. Let's see. I'll register again. I don't know. It says now I'm registered. So at the time above, you can join the webinar. So it's open from 10 to 2:30. Just because, oh, and I got a confirmation. Yes, this is fabulous. So we know that it's actually working. Okay, and you will also get a confirmation once you join and once you register. And then at 1 o'clock, you're going to click this join webinar link from your confirmation email, and that's how you'll join this afternoon.
Capiche.
Everybody clear? Jabari, are you good now?
Yes.
All right, there was one other thing I wanted to tell you, but I guess that can wait until we return. But the most important part is that we're not logging into the GoToMeeting link. We're going to try this GoToWebinar and let's test it out and see how well it works. So in the future, we can do some polling, we can share handouts, we can show videos, and so I'll be recording in that session later this afternoon. So it will be exciting. On that note, I will see you at 1 o'clock and enjoy your lunch.